this time called the Charlottesville Albemarle Regional Transit Authority to order. And I would like to call Regional Transit Partnership. And by way of an announcement, I would like to ask your patience today because we have two separate boards and a joint meeting. So there are some things we're going to have to do. One board is gonna have to do, one board is gonna have to vote on some things, and another board is gonna have to vote on the same thing, but we have to go separately. So it's gonna be a little bit different meeting this afternoon, but it's fun and lovely to see everybody together this afternoon. So thank you very much. By way of introductions, let's just go around the table and introduce ourselves. And if you'll tell so that Lucinda and the public can keep track. As you introduce yourself, let everyone know what board you're representing, what board you're on. And if you're a designee, to let us know that you're a designee for whatever position. So with that, let's start with.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you. My name is Kendall Howell. I'm from the University of Virginia, Department of Park and Transportation, representing University Transit Service as an alternate.
Okay. Right.
Good evening, Mike Murphy, I'm the CEO of JAUNT and part of the RTP. Darrell Williams, Director of
That.
and I'm part of the RTP.
Peter Miller, the Brown Handle Transportation, for TP.
Peter Thompson, Charlottesville Area Alliance, now a voting member of the RTP.
Ben Chambers, I'm the Transportation Planning Manager of the City of Charlottesville. I'm a non-voting member of the RTP, representing the City Manager's Office, and then with the part of working.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ann Wall. I serve as Deputy County Executive for Albemarle County. I'm just like Ben, so I serve as a non-voting member of the RTP as well as on my working group for CART.
I am Natalie Auction of Charlottesville City Council, and I'm on both days.
Okay. I am Diana McKeel. I represent Albemarle County, and I am on the RTP and the Cardiff.
Frank Kingston, the City Council of Charlottesville, I'm on RTP and Carter.
Mike Pruitt, Albemarle Board of Supervisors. I am on RTP and CARTA.
Brent Sparks, Director of Statewide Transit Programs for DRPT, and I'm a non-voting member of CARTA.
Peter Krebs from the Piedmont Environmental Council. I'm a non-voting member of the RTP.
And my name is Keith Smith. I am the current chair of the Piedmont Community Land Trust. I get my land trust and my commission. Thank you. Thank you. Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. I got it out. There you go. Unless you want to talk land trust, then I can do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Lucinda Shannon, staff at the TJPDC.
Taylor Jenkins, TJPDC, and also on the CARTA working group.
We have some guests online.
Okay, I'm just gonna go back to Gretchen. Christine. Oh, there you go. I'm gonna see you, Christine.
Christine Jacobs, Executive Director, Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, non-voting member of the RTP, representing the Charlottesville Albemarle Metropolitan Planning Organization, and then also on the CARTA working group.
Gretchen Thomas, Admin Assistant for TJPDC, and I'm on the other board.
And then we have on the screen.
We have Supervisor Malik, Julia Monteith, and then James Fraze is an attendee, not in the panelist group.
Okay. All right, and then I'll swing back around. Let's go over here. There you go. Introduce yourself. We'll just go this back row.
Karen Davis, Assistant Director of Transit from Charlottesville.
Sandy Shackelford, co-partner VITA. Sarah Pennington, representing the rideshare program, non-voting member of RTP.
Jason Espy, I'm Senior Director of Planning for JAUNT. Just here.
Jen Fletcher, Blue Ridge Health District. Tanya Schwarzenegger, Albemarle County Planning Division.
So Mecklenburg Transit Planner in City of Charlottesville.
Welcome, everyone. I appreciate your indulgence for that. Our first item on the agenda is to accept the agenda. And I'll need, first, let's have a motion from someone on the party board.
I move for adoption of the agenda.
Second. Brian's made the motion, Natalie's made the second. Lucinda, would you call the roll for that one?
Yes, Counselor Pinkston,
Yes.
Counselor Oshrin, Supervisor McKeel.
Yes.
Supervisor Pruitt.
Aye.
That's all.
All right, and we need, a vote for, RTP. So would you call the roll for that?
Do you want a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, motion, excuse me. It's okay.
I move for adoption of the RTP agenda.
All right, Brian made the motion. Second. Natalie's made the second. Now you can call for the vote.
Now, Counselor Pinkston,
Yes.
Counselor Oshrin.
Yes.
Supervisor McKeel.
Yes.
Supervisor Pruitt.
Aye.
Miss Miller.
Yes.
Director Parker. That's Kendall Howell as an alternate for Scott Silsdorf. Okay. That's all.
All right, so we have an agenda. The next item on the agenda is to approve the Carter Board draft minutes from September the 25th. Did anyone have any comments or edits about those minutes? And if not, I entertain a motion from a Carter Board member.
Move for adoption of the Carter meeting minutes, September 25th.
All right, so Brian's made the motion, and now I'm gonna make this.
I just saw something.
Oh,
Yes, one
okay.
modification, I'm sorry. On the part, I guess it's in page 5 of the minutes.
Now you're on the Carter minutes.
No, I'm sorry.
That's what we're. I was gonna say. That's what I should have said.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, so-
I looked for 20 minutes.
So we have a motion and a second, part of draft minutes from September 25th. You'll call the roll.
Counselor Pinkston,
Yes.
Counselor Oshrin.
Yeah.
Supervisor McKeel. Supervisor Pruitt.
Aye.
Minutes approved. The next set, we have the RTP draft minutes from October the 23rd, and I'll turn it off.
Thank you, sorry.
Sure.
I jumped down a little bit. So just want to make sure the spelling is correct. So it says, and we went to it's Gillig, it's the E at the end is IG. And then the award itself was the low and no rank of like so the low number right now.
Oh, okay. Wait, what is the Gillick?
Gillig is GILLIG.
Thanks. LLIGLET.
And it's low no, not no.
GILLIG.
Okay,
Full palindromes.
got it.
And it's the no and low grant application.
No, it's low no, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Low and no.
Yeah.
And I just have one quick on page 3. It's not Mrs. Saunders, it was Mr. Saunders.
Compelling.
Yeah, no, second paragraph.
Page 3.
Those, all the edits. And Lucinda, are you?
Actually, one more,
Okay.
right above that, the motion action. My last name has a C in it. OSC.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, on the
Oh, yes.
Motion action.
not the most important.
And I'm just gonna check with Lucinda
Yes,
and Taylor to make sure they caught all those.
I just
Yes.
wrote them all down.
You're good.
Yeah.
And here's the one with the
All right.
Oh.
I will
your motion act.
entertain
Thank you.
motion to approve the RTP minutes from October 23rd as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Natalie made the motion and Mike second. All right, then call the roll for that.
Counselor Pinkston,
Abstain, that was not here.
Counselor Oshrin, Supervisor McKeel,
Yes.
Supervisor Pruitt,
Aye.
Miss Miller,
Yes.
and alternate for Scott Silsdorf, Kendall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Enthusiastic, yeah. Okay. All right.
All I have to say yes.
Those minutes is approved. Lucinda, do we have anyone who signed up to speak from the public?
If there's anybody in the room who would like to speak, raise your hand. If there is anybody online who would like to speak, use the raise your hand at the bottom of your screen. We also have Mr. Boyles joined. Saba O'Flynn from C3 and Sarah Simba from TJPDC.
So Chip would be a sight for sore eyes, we can't see.
Yeah,
You gotta get them on.
I'm trying to get at
Gotta
the,
find a way.
We put Chip on the
Okay.
screen.
all right.
See, he's wrong.
Turn on your camera, Chip.
Lock him on.
Hey.
Mr. Chair, if I may have a minute just to speak. I hear this is someone's last meeting. And I wanted to join just to say what a pleasure, what a leader you all have had, Miss Diantha McKeel, and what a pleasure it was working with her. From the depths of the transit world, I don't even want to say how many years ago now, but you all have just gone far beyond what I think I would have ever imagined. But kudos to you all, and Diantha, you'll certainly be missed by all.
Thank you, Chip. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you.
We're here to join for a cupcake. All right, anyone else, listen that wanted to say anything?
No, there are no comments from the public.
Okay. All right, with that, the next item on the agenda, I think Christine, you have remarks. I wish you'd sent a message.
There was a couple people still weren't here and I wanted to make sure they didn't walk in to like, what do I do? So I was leaving a vacancy near the door.
I'm hidden back there.
Just to begin, if you guys will forgive me, I have my remarks on paper on purpose. I've been under the weather and I want to make sure not to forget to say all the things that I spent time thinking to make sure that I said. So I have them in front of me, so forgive me if I read from some of them. Chairman Keel, members of the Regional Transit Partnership, members of the Charlottesville Albemarle Regional Transit Authority, staff and guests. Thank you all for being here at this joint meeting, which represents a significant moment for great reflection and transition. It's my honor to provide some remarks prior to a brief presentation and a look back. Today, we honor and celebrate the extensive work that this region has done to get to this point. In our region, discussion around coordinated transit has been a cornerstone for over 2 decades. There are countless staff, former and current, elected officials, advocates, service providers, community groups, consultants, citizens that have all contributed to the success of the transit work in the region, too many people to name individually. The concept of regional transit authority was first explored in the mid to late 2000s, leading to legislation that created the ability to form the Charlottesville Albemarle Regional Transit Authority. As you all know, while the authority itself was established in the Code of Virginia, accompanying legislation for revenue generation was not successful. For many years following the adoption of the legislation, the region continued to operate without a forum for the City of Charlottesville, Albemarle County, University of Virginia, transit agencies, and other regional partners to routinely sit together, identify shared challenges, and coordinate solutions. Following a recommendation from the Regional Transit Coordination Study, the RTP was created in 2017 as a committee of the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO to fulfill multiple roles. The first was to serve as the interim body and a precursor to formally activating the Regional Transit Authority. The second was to be a forum for communication and coordination between the transit providers. And the third was to build consensus around regional transit priorities. The RTP found its strength in its ability to convene regional partners to work through the issues that no single entity could solve independently. And as those of you who have been around for some time understand, the work has not always been easy, and it did not seem to move quickly enough at times. As we all know, truly collaborative, cooperative, and coordinated planning is challenging, especially with the amount of change and the number of transitions that have occurred in those 2 decades. But the members of the RTP continued to lean into rather than away from those challenges. The steadily increasing demand for reliable, frequent, and connected transit regional system for residents is the charge that anchored the RTP's commitment. With the start of the RTP, the region had for the first time a forum for all transit providers, all major stakeholders to regularly gather to collectively plan for the future of transit in our region. Over time, the region has built a shared understanding of the collective challenges and opportunities. The RTP has helped to strengthen the relationships. And today, we have stronger channels of communication, we have more trust, and we have shared expectations than we had at any point in those past 2 decades. As evidenced by all of us here today, I think this is the most people that have ever been to a part of our RTP meeting. As evidenced by us here today, the RTP has paved the way for the activation of the Regional Transit Authority. While today is a moment to celebrate the RTP as it sunsets, we must also acknowledge the extensive work that still lies ahead of us in this region. There are many questions to consider and to grapple as CARTA works to continue to advance dedicated revenue, to recommend and fund coordinated services and improvements, and to build a regional transit system that reflects the values of our community. Thanks to the dedicated work of the countless people in the RTP, CARTA gets a running start on addressing the future of transit in our region. It gets the established relationships, it gets the foundational plans and the wisdom of countless studies and a clear understanding of the priorities. And while it is bittersweet for the RTP to come to its end, it does represent the next step that we should be celebrating. In closing, I'd like to recognize all of the elected officials and staff in the jurisdictions, the staff on all of the transit agencies, all of the leadership teams that were involved, the citizens that continue to engage and to push to make sure that we're doing things right by people, the representatives of all the special interest groups that continue to advocate for action, the former and current staff and planners of the PDC, folks that were involved well before the team that is currently on staff, and countless individuals who are visionary future thinkers that helped us get to where we are today. Finally, I would like to say 2 special thank yous. One is to Councilor Pinkston, who has served the MPO with thoughtfulness, integrity, and care for our community. As he prepares to conclude his service with the Charlottesville City Council, I'd like to express my deepest appreciation for your time and your partnership. And of course, a special thank you to Chair Supervisor Diantha McKeel. Your steadfast leadership, your persistence, and your vision are truly a gift to our region. As you also roll off of the Albemarle Board of Supervisors, I'd like to thank you for your commitment to the work of the Regional Transit Partnership and the newly formed Charlottesville Albemarle Regional Transit. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great summary of where we started and where we are. I really appreciate that.
Madam Chair. Make us sit over, please. Thank you, Madam.
Just point out for folks, and I want to take this opportunity at this time to recognize Chip Boyle, yes, as well as Nakia Walker. Nakia Walker and I sat in a conference room for many meetings, Chip, you remember, and hammered out one of the first contract for the RCP and how we were going to fund transit among the cities, between the city and the county. And she and I we worked together and finally got it. And both of us were so interested. Nakia was so adamant that she just had to have better transit for her time. So I'm just sending a shout out to the guy who's not here, but Nakia and Chip, thank you very much. And so with that, I see that you were at the podium, so I'll let you take over the back presentation.
So I'm just, I'm gonna go back a decade of the RTP and transportation planning. I really want to thank Christine for her comments. They reflect my comments too. And it's a real honor to have the opportunity to acknowledge the RTP and all of the work and success that you all have had. As a planner, the success of the RTP is a beautiful example of how regional planning works. With support from the state, and the TJPDC was able to support the localities in studying regional transportation services and developing a solution. It all started with a study in 2008, the Transit Authority study, which resulted in the 2009 legislation forming CARTA. And the 2016 Regional Transit Coordination Study re-examined the governance of the transit structures and recommended a formation of the Regional Transit Partnership as a precursor to the Regional Transit Authority. The first RTP meeting was in 2017.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like the slides aren't advancing on the shared version online, so folks online are only seeing the title slide. If we want to try to maybe stop sharing.
Yeah, that is.
Is that safe to speak it themselves? I got caught in that presentation recently.
Well, it's not, it doesn't look like it's in presenter mode on the online screen. It looks like it's in like an edit mode.
Okay.
If you want
I
to
can,
stop right there.
Yeah, let me see what I can do.
Select.
Yeah.
Um. Try this. No, it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay, hold on.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Before you can sleep. We check that folks online can see, okay?
Chip, can you all see now?
Yes, ma'am. It's coming up.
Okay, right.
All right.
We just wanted to mention.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. So, this is. Okay. In 2018, the RTP developed a strategic plan with a clear mission and vision. And then in 2019, the Albemarle County and the City of Charlottesville signed a funding MOU to support the RTP. And I just want to say here that it's really I'm going through like the studies and the actions that happen, but it's really the representatives from the jurisdictions and the transit service providers and the county and city staff and other stakeholders who met monthly and were really dedicated to moving this initiative forward. So you guys might see some old names up there. In 2020, all the meetings and discussions were moving towards the RTP's goals. And the UVA joined the RTP as a voting member, which was fabulous. It's quite an example of the relationship building and collaboration that was happening through the RTP. The TJPDC also submitted two technical assistance applications through DRPT on behalf of the city and Albemarle County, and each of those jurisdictions contributed 50% match to those projects. So in 2021, the RTP was awarded the DRPT funds to conduct the Albemarle County Transit Expansion Feasibility Study, which resulted in MicroCat and the Regional Transit Vision Plan, and started working on them. In 2022, the RTP, now functioning as a true coalition for transit services in the region, completed the Albemarle County Transit Expansion Study and assisted CAT with the demonstration grant to apply to provide the MicroCat service. The RTP completed the Regional Transit Vision Plan in 2023 and secured funding for the Regional Transit Governance Study based on the recommendations from the Vision Plan. The Vision Plan worked with transit providers to design a network of transit services to meet the community's transit vision. In 2024, the Regional Transit Governance Study was completed, recommending that the jurisdictions enact the CARTA legislation and approach the General Assembly again for taxation authority to fund the services laid out in the Vision Plan. And in 2025, the city and the county enacted CARTA legislation. Yay. It's very exciting for me. And appointed a board and secured funding for a regional transit service prioritization study. This study will examine the services in the most recent transit planning documents, including the Vision Plan, and prioritize them based on cost and benefits. Here's the first CARTA meeting. which is huge. So since 2008, the communities worked together to develop a structure and support transit services, and 9 years later, we have CARTA. Because of the dedication and the leadership to the RTP members. And CARTA held its first meeting in 2025 and kicked off the regional transit prioritization plan, will also be kicked off in 2025. We kicked it off yesterday. So I just wanted to thank all present and past members of the RTP for their dedication, hard work, and leadership. People sometimes complain about all the plans and studies that we do and they just sit on a shelf, but not these ones. Thanks to the dedication and leadership and the services provided by the community members, these plans grew and helped form a regional transit authority, the first of its kind in the Commonwealth. We have regional transportation authorities and we have one regional transit authority that is a very different structure. This is really the first of its kind for Virginia. So y'all should be very proud. And that's it.
Thank you, Lucinda, that's great. And I'll just open it up, does anybody have any comments or questions? Add?
I want to know why I'm never giving the PDC enough money to buy a proper camera.
It's sitting next to Kendall.
How could you help?
That's the question, and we can turn to Lucinda and maybe Christina and ask, with the renovation of this office, will we get new cameras?
These are fine. It's the one in there that we rarely hold meetings public in that room. We're using it temporarily. No, the tenant improvements do not include technology.
Comments or questions? Points, all right. Thank you, Lucinda. That was great. Appreciate it. All right, next item, RTP transition follow-up.
Thank you, Chairman Fuel. I'd like to take just a few minutes to walk through a memo that was included in your packet for today's meeting, and that's an update on the Regional Transit Partnership transition. Staff heard it articulated from RTP members on a couple different occasions, and we wanted to make sure that we addressed two primary concerns that we heard from you all. And the first was CARTA involvement for special interest groups and the public, and how these interest groups, advocacy organizations, and the public can continue to be engaged with the work that CARTA is doing. Previously, we have stated that CARTA, of course, is still a public body, and so the meetings are always open to the public, and we invite anyone to join and provide comments on the work that they're doing at that time. But beyond that, CARTA will really rely on its local jurisdictions to collect and communicate the feedback directly from their residents, their transit riders, and their employers that are in their region. And that's primarily for two reasons. One, because CARTA doesn't directly operate any transit service currently. And so it makes sense that local governments would be the key conduit for communicating any feedback that the residents have. And then the second reason is that really maintains the connection between the work that CARTA is doing for planning, for revenue generation, and for funding, and the actual work that's happening at the local level with its local jurisdictions. And then the second concern that we heard articulated was the representation of rural transit needs, given the current board structure of 2 members from the City of Charlottesville and 2 from the County of Albemarle. How will rural jurisdictions be represented in that? The CARTA working group, before CARTA was activated, went around and did have discussions with the local jurisdictions, the rural jurisdictions, gauging their interest in joining CARTA. And there wasn't any at that time, but we do recognize that this is an ongoing conversation. And so we do have scoped as part of our transit prioritization study to make sure we are including staff at the rural jurisdictions as we talk through different scenarios for transit expansion to gauge their priorities and keep transit top of mind should they be interested in the future. And so we have communicated and shared materials for the letter that requests the RTP dissolution, the RTP MOU amendment, and also the CARTA Memorandum of Understanding to all of the signatories of the RTP MOU. And so those are our next steps. Happy to take any questions or comments about that.
So I'll open it up for questions or comments. And I do want to make sure that there's a comfort level, because I think the providers, the transit providers in the community were concerned about losing a voice that they've had at the table with this group. And I just want to make sure that there's a comfort level with what the planning is right now, that going forward. And I'm opening it up just for comments and questions. And thank you for your presentation. And I just want to make sure. And feel free to. We've had a discussion about this a couple of times, and I just want to make sure that there is a comfort level. Peter, I will look at you and say, and mine. Who else? Yeah.
I can go chance first.
Hey, Carl.
Specifically said transit provider.
Well, for the transit providers that had a concern, as well as some of the other, groups that were at the table, I was starting with transit providers, just to make sure.
Do you wanna go first?
Whatever. You don't have to say anything.
There should be no confusion about either JAUNT's support or my personal support for Carter, right? My questions have been about how do we get the regional voice? Has there been a good enough value proposition for the rural jurisdictions to be a part of CARTA as we continue to create regional constructs where they are always by design outvoted, right? And I've been a part of most of those in the 30 years that I've worked for either the city of Charlottesville or for JAUNT. And it's more effective for them to just go and directly negotiate with the vendor. And I don't know that that helps the region to advance if that's the ambition of CARTA. So as it has been stood up, you know, there is some possibility that it continues just to be a Charlottesville Albemarle time for quite a period of time. That causes some concern, you know. So if we're not getting the funding right away, like, I've had questions about whether we should have delayed the sunsetting of RTP by another year to try and get different people from the regions to participate in RTP and see what a good collaborative process has been happening here. And I also understand what the duplication and constraints are on Christine's staff time that don't make that an effective decision. And so, like, we're bringing the dissolution to the job board, and I'll be recommending that they sign off on it when we meet on December 10th. I do have a belief that the most effective version of CARTA is like the big tent version of CARTA. You know, we had many discussions where people are like, "Are you talking big A or little a?" when you talk about that authority. And I do think that, you know, when I reflect on Christine's remarks to the group, the greatest power in RTP and then in CARTA to me, you know, it would be nice to leverage dollars to realize the service ambitions. But the power, whether we're talking about transit or any other infrastructure or human service project I've been involved with in Charlottesville and Albemarle County, is the collaboration, the cooperation, the coordination, and what a great community it is for that. And so, you know, I hope that that is not lost, right? And I'll just say that for me, you know, I was at city council for a work session last night. I had about a half hour with the council, and one of the councilors' only questions to me was about, well, what about when years down the road we only have one entity? And I was like, yeah, so to me, that's just one vision of what CARTA can or should be. That we should be focused on trying to provide the best service and having the best collaboration rather than trying to figure out whether there's only one person or one logo. And so I really believe in CARTA and I believe in regionalism, and I'd love to see as much as possible bring in the other rural jurisdictions as part of the plan.
That was really well said, and I appreciate that. I wanted to have the opportunity this afternoon before we left for folks to talk about this and make sure. Carla, do you have anything you want to add?
I want to say it's a different perspective. So I don't have as much interaction with the the surrounding smaller communities as Mike does. But what I will say is I look at CARTA as an extension of RTP because it really allows for those groups to come to CARTA and have their voice is heard there. They may not necessarily be voting members at this point in time, but that does not necessarily mean that you don't have input. If I'm looking at other regional transit authorities around the state, I look at it as those entities bring in some money. The jurisdictions sometimes, well, the transit entities sometimes make a pitch to that authority for funding purposes, to fund extensions of routes or new services, those sorts of things. I look at, that's how I envision CARTA happening now, because that's really kind of in my mind, the next iteration of where transit goes. Before we even talk about whether it's one gigantic entity 10, 20 years from now. But it allows us to have the dialogue because the jurisdictions still are making the funding choices right now. Because the funds will come in and there will still have to be a pitch. City council will have to be involved. Board of supervisors will still have to be involved in making those decisions. That's where the power lies. So there still is an avenue. It may not necessarily be in this room, but it may be in front of city council, or it may be in front of the board of supervisors, having those discussions about where we move the organizations, whether that is JAUNT or CAT, in the future. So I like the perspective that Mike brings, but from my vantage point, I'm already making those connections because I have to go before the board of supervisors or city council when we talk about making a change to services anyway. It's kind of a natural extension of what we do as a fixed route transit provider. I'm pitching services to you. You tell me whether you like them or not, and you move forward. You tell me whether you're going to fund them or not, and we move forward. And that's how I see whether it's in Richmond or Northern Virginia, those models are happening right now. So I don't see CARTA being any different. I think it's new to this region, but I think it's an extension of where the big A or little a authority component happens.
Any other comments? I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I just want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to say anything that I want to say.
I'll just add on that. I mean, I appreciate staff's time and I know that having this as kind of part of the record of the transition of capturing how some of the ideas of the people who brought up some of the challenges of the transition and that the benefits of RTP went well beyond getting ready for RTA. And I think that was really valuable. And as an advocate for improved transit and transportation in our community, personally and representing CAA, there's so much good energy, whether it be from public health and health district standpoint, to PDC and C3 looking at an environmental standpoint, people looking at better transport equity standpoint, quality of life, public safety standpoint, age-friendly standpoint, and we're going to need all of those groups and more to help CARTA get the support, the public support to make things happen. And I want to make sure, representing CA, we don't lose track of that. So I appreciate that all being part of the record. And you're giving a chance for a more mindful discussion now. And just the other component from CAA standpoint, we actually had a transportation work group, which I'm a member of, meeting this morning, hence why I'm here representing CAA. One of the other things that we continue to talk about is how do individual consumers, users, how is their voice heard? There's some very good groups representing stakeholders, but we all, I think, know and want to hear also from individual users, riders, potential riders, former riders. And a lot of those folks are on the margins and don't know where to go, don't know how to advocate necessarily, and don't really know where to go. And we still feel like there's not really a clear, if somebody asked me, I want to talk more about my needs as a rider, I'm not sure really where the best place for them to go is. And so that's not really a hardest answer right now, but I think while all this group's together, CAA feels very much there's a void there that needs to be filled, and there's an opportunity to improve transit by having some mechanism better for individual users to be able to speak up and have their voice heard.
Well, thank you.
That's the extra space.
Yeah, anybody else has any comments? And
There
you go.
Yeah, I'll just say also that, it, you know, it's hard to say what, the role of somebody like me, who I'm a public figure, but I'm not a public official. So not quite the same thing. And, so I completely see a big firewall, like from a due process perspective. But also having said that, though, while there is the matters from the public opportunity, or we have everybody's email address, everybody's available. The answer to something that somebody says that matters from the public is always the same answer. It has to be, thank you for your comments. That's the answer, and that's not quite the same when there's a discussion that where like there's some nuance that's being made. So I think there is good value for doing that. Though on the other hand as well, like how do you decide between environmentalists or the elders or the grocers or, you know, the hospitals? I was looking at some of the non-voting members that were on the list, and I was like, well, that's quite a long list of non-voting members before. So I think the solution that I would recommend is that the public needs to know about what's happening here before it's fully baked. And that is something that I'm able to do. Council and supervisors are able to do that too in their report outs. But doing a good job at communicating through the media, like Sean's probably working on there, and I find out, you know, what's being discussed also by reading his newsletter. So just be cognizant of doing a good job of letting the world know what you're working on rather than what you just did.
I see a lot of nodding heads on that. Yeah. Any other comments or anyone else?
Great.
I guess kind of as just what Mike said reminded me of this in context of the role in which we engage with rural localities. We've talked about this before on this board. We've talked about it on board of supervisors and in the TJPDC. But you know, I saw a headline on an article this morning that I was briefly excited and was getting ready to send it to you, and then I realized it wasn't relevant because I saw the headline: Senator Evan vows in local town hall to fight for transit funding. I'm like, oh, exciting. I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is about, you know, smart scale funding. Maybe this is about regional and no. The thing I forget is that when we're looking at transportation funding, this is a purely localist pork fight when it gets to Richmond. It is pure pork. And not throwing aspersions, that's what I want my lawmakers to do for me, right? To bring home the bacon. But we have 3 lawmakers in Albemarle and Charlottesville. And strategies that we can think about on this board, on this authority, as we move forward, figuring out how we build that coalition, and build a coalition that can fight more aggressively for the funding that we are eventually going to need is going to be an important strategy. And if that becomes a purple coalition, I think that honestly might have more sway, because it would be counter-cyclical, which is not something every other transit coalition can say. So I don't know that I have a structural fix for that today, but we've mentioned it before, and I think it always bears mention. And as we're getting ready to look at what a very breakneck, session in Richmond is going to look like, and something I was very much reminded of. We're never going to get our either transit or transportation priorities funded, so long as we're purely relying on the same 3 people's personal relational capital. And they get to Richmond, we need to build that tent to be able to fight for our priorities for our regional pork.
And that's a really good point too.
Right.
Very good point. This is great. I really appreciate the comments, and I think it is good to have this on the record. So that folks can go back and say, oh, yes. The other thing, if no one else has any other comments, I'm gonna take us in a little bit different direction, and I'm gonna take the chair's prerogative to bring up something that I want to remind folks about. Maybe inform, remind, and ask, and I'm gonna pass around a memorandum. Y'all can take a copy, take a look at it. This is a memorandum that was sent from Jeff Richardson and Sam Sanders to Jim Ryan and JJ Davis at the time, dated June 23rd. And this is simply a request from us around representation from the University of Virginia. And the importance of having UVA as a non-voting member, certainly is what the ask is. And I just don't want to lose track of this. I want everybody that's going forward with CARTA, staff and everybody, to remember that this ask has been made from the University of Virginia. And it is critical that we have someone from UVA at the upper echelon that is someone that can make decisions, right? And that's what this memorandum is about. And I will say at the same time, I want to remind folks that there was a very strong statement in the transit governance study that mentioned specifically the University of Virginia's participation in that vote. And I'm going to take the time to read this because I want it on the record. This was from the Transit Governance Study 6.4, collaboration with UVA. UVA involvement in regional transit extends beyond that of a transit service provider through UTS. The university is also a major stakeholder in the region and could serve as a crucial partner in the pursuit of regionalized transit service. Although representatives from the UTS were engaged throughout the study, further engagement with the university is needed to discuss potential mutual benefits in collaborating in regional transit service. Additional discussion with UVA stakeholders would lead to a clearer role for the university and a future authority. Recommendation: conduct a transit needs assessment that clearly analyzes rural transit needs. Recommendation: ensure continued rural engagement and development of legislative package for a regional transit authority. Include protective mechanisms in the use of transit revenue generated to lead the equitable investment across the region. Continue educational efforts on the potential benefits of a regional authority and its impact on different types of residents. So the recommendation, the main recommendation that came from the transit governance study, engage UVA leadership at a level where there is a decision-making authority in efforts towards establishing transit authority. But I think this is a really critical point. We need UVA at the table. I'm just saying, and I'm throwing that out right now because it seemed like it was an appropriate time for us to leave remembering this. And I'm just going to turn to Ann and Ben, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any comments?
It's fine.
Oh, it's fine.
It's obviously.
No, I certainly appreciate, Ms. McHale, you sharing the letter that was sent on behalf of the city and the county to engage. As you pointed out, so definitely, it was in that transit governance study for Virginia to participate, University of Virginia to participate really with high decision-making authority, representing itself as an employer, a property owner of a really large footprint. But we really do appreciate UTS involvement. I'll just say, we really do appreciate Scott has been a very active member of the work that we've been doing. So Scott's been a really great partner. This is just sort of that broader look about what transit can and should be look like on a regional basis.
Right, and I think the point, and you're exactly right to hit that hard, the point is not that UVA is the provider, UTS. They are an employer in our community. I think that's the issue. They have a broader role than just being a provider. And I just don't want that UVA to be lost.
I will note that based on the date of this memorandum, that was a pretty difficult time for us to send this memorandum to the UVA. Engaging with the leadership has been a bit of a challenge over the past few months, but we have reestablished that relationship. So we are looking forward to being able to pull someone from UVA to the table, but this was maybe a difficult time for them.
And I recognize that because I think you're going to jump out at me as well.
Yeah.
But
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Can I ask what kind of response we've gotten to this?
well, I was trying to.
Yeah, we didn't get much response to this.
Right.
We have gotten a response from UVA since we've re-engaged their
Good,
new
okay.
leadership.
Okay.
They are looking forward to participating. They just haven't come up with a person quite yet.
So maybe we should rename it and resend it. I'm just kidding. All right. Just want that to be said on the record. That's great. Okay, so let me get back to my agenda and, I believe it's time for the the transit providers up there. Which is, so the first one is Albemarle County Schools, and Jamie is not.
She was not able to come. She's coaching a basketball game.
Oh, for her, I didn't know she was a basketball, that's great. Okay, UTS. So Scott's not here, but Ken Lewis.
Hey, everyone. Well, number one, I need to go to Madison Hall to get a proper response. Yeah, no, thank you for highlighting that, Ms. McKeel. We're about to embark on our kind of patchworkiest quilt of service packages over the next month and a half. We change over to exam service on the 10th of December, and then to commuter service on the 22nd. Over to recess service on January 5th and back to full service on January 1st. So a lot of moving parts at University Transit just by nature over the course of Thanksgiving and winter break. I don't know if you guys have ever spoken about the Fontaine parking garage here. Yeah, okay, so that thing opened. It has 1,200 car capacity. The big thing on our plate is shifting our UVA Health like daily last mile commuters from where they currently park, which is the Emmett and Ivy garage on Ivy Road, over to that new garage in Fontaine. And once we're able to do that, we need some infrastructure completion there. Once we're able to do that, we're going to launch what we're calling the Purple Line, which is kind of our biggest single structural change in the last decade or so. And so I'm sure Scott will be happy to share the details with you guys, or I can. But it's going to change some traffic patterns and that kind of thing. The biggest struggle we're encountering with that is the Verve project at the intersection of Jefferson Park Avenue and Emmett Street and Stadium Road. And so we have to get that kind of ironed out. We're working with people from the city, people from the project. But that's a pretty critical artery for us through the university and would be a critical artery for our 15 buses an hour Purple Line. So that's kind of the big thing on the UTS docket. Yes, hey.
Are you talking about just during the construction process?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we have concerns about this massive apartment building in these rather restricted, smaller city streets. But right now it's just construction. It's the road closures at willy-nilly times and trucks delivering stuff, and it causes a lot of problems. I just wanted to mention it. I don't know, commiserations.
At least it's gonna end.
Yeah.
And that's helpful because I had someone say to me, oh, well, the Fontaine Tucking Garage, the new one is just for employees. And I was trying to figure out the Fontaine employees, so you
Yeah.
helped a lot with that.
Yes.
That's very helpful information to have.
Yeah, we have roughly 1,800 last mile commuters that are employees of UVA Health.
Yeah.
There's not enough parking on site, and so this is one of the big functions that University Transit serves, is that last mile commute. We're shifting a big population from M&N Ivy Garage over to
Okay.
Fontaine. Yeah,
That makes sense. to me.
yeah. Should ease up traffic on Ivy Road. That would be great.
So any questions for Kendall? That's great to know, good information.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, that's great. All right, next would be Garland Cat in the City of Charlottesville.
I don't think I think it just flew by everybody when Kendall said 15 buses
An
an hour.
Yeah.
That's for every 4 minutes.
Pretty good.
So you understand, that is impressive.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a hard job.
That is real hard, but
Hive mind.
didn't want that to slide. That is amazing. First and foremost, that's a lot of dedicated service to one night. And keep it on track. So anyway, my updates on the school side, there are electric buses are in-house. Our electric charging stations have been commissioned. We are actually starting to charge those vehicles. We will have dedicated training for all of our school drivers over the Christmas break, because it's longer and it provides us enough time to do so. With the goal of really having starting our test, the pilot for the school buses in January when the students come back. So we will be rotating them on different routes to see how well the range is for the two. Having discussions with the school system about adding to the pilot there. It's similar to the pilots that we're going to do on the transit side for a maximum of up to 6 vehicles. But right now it's 2, hopefully by 2 more next fiscal year, school buses for a total of 4, and then we'll see what happens. On transit side, we are going to be ordering our second round of battery electric vehicles next month. Those are the ones we've already been funded for. The discussions are going on right now about whether to go to the 6, which is the initial pilot that we have talked about. So that is a decision that we'll be bringing forward to the city council. And then there's discussion about whether any federal funding is going to be available to help us augment or offset those costs. Don't know that answer here, but we'll continue to monitor that. Hopefully the state has been stepping up. They've done a wonderful job in helping us close that gap. They helped us close the funding gap on our transit project. It was by a $2 million hole, and they closed that up pretty quickly. Thank you, state. Because otherwise it wouldn't happen. So it's just a matter of prioritizing goals around our eventual shift from alternatives to alternative fuels, and when we do it, it's not if we're gonna do it, it's the timing of when we're gonna do it. Because that train is basically already, no pun intended, the train's already left the station. We've got infrastructure on for battery electric coming for CAT for the transit side. And then the only discussion really that happens after that is whether we pull the trigger on the hydrogen side. I'm hopeful that we will be able to do that. I think there's great benefits in doing that, and there potentially may be a local fund, a Commonwealth Virginia
That's right.
funding source fairly soon. Which is great. If that's the case, then it gives us more reason to potentially pursue that avenue, because trucking it in or shipping it in it's not going to be as difficult. Yeah, a much simpler tank. And then we could look at doing larger storage capacity because it's easier just to get it. The major push right now is trying to figure out what our funding levels are gonna look like, budget wise for FY 27. Those discussions are happening with the city and the county. They have been, really informative. They've been eye-opening about, priorities, and then we're gonna be making presentations, through the city manager's office, to city council. We're still having engaging conversations with the county, about what their needs are and, what that whole total package looks like. We'll be having, briefing probably in the next, I guess, a month or so, with the whole year goal of having, a solid recommendation from the city and the county, by late January, early February. So, stay tuned.
And just a quick comment, and I'm sure you are aware that Albemarle County Public Schools have been using electric buses in the urban, right? And I'm sure you and Jamie are talking about, she could probably give you some of her
Oh,
experience.
she's doing some stuff, you gotta watch out for her.
Yeah, exactly, I'm sure that. Okay, all right, Mike, any questions for Bob? Before we move on? Good. All right, Mike, jump.
Well, it's in the joy of budget season, we find ourselves today, and so we already have budgets in to Charlottesville and Albemarle, which kind of then dictates what the others look like, right? Because they're gonna have to project, state match rates and a number of other things. There's some tweaks that may be out there as we have those discussions out with the other jurisdictions, because we certainly want them to shape whatever the patterns are in every jurisdiction. For the city and county, we are projecting just a slight decrease in the request for local funds, and I know that that'll be welcome news to budget offices, since every year is a tight budget year, it seems. We are a finalist, it appears. We've had a follow-up call with National RTAP about a grant we put in that would provide a new level of service for a commuter route to Greene County, and also increase some frequency on the 29 North route that serves Albemarle County, which is good news. And we've spent a good amount of time working with DRBT, if that's not able to be funded, at what that might look like as a demonstration grant. We spent many hours discussing with the PDC team and some folks from DRPT how we can deliver a really important project to the region for possibly 5310 service, to expand on what the PDC is hearing as the mobility managers for this area, and what we heard in the survey. So I think that we're, as of yesterday, maybe, Christine might just tilted her head and be like, is he gonna accurately report what we said? No, I'm not. Sometimes we have a circular discussion. No, I think that we are moving towards some ideas about, pool of dollars for 5310, but also the overwhelming request for midday service to get people back out into the rural jurisdictions. We do a really nice job getting people in town early and home late, and not as good a job in the middle of the day. And so we'll be talking about that with DRBT. I hate to have even spoiled the surprise. I'm so sorry. And our last board meeting of the calendar year for JAUNT is on December 10th. And in addition to talking about the RTP, we will be presenting to the board our audited report from FY 25 closeout, and we will be either in that meeting or the February meeting recommending the return of excess capital to the jurisdictions. So that should be good news as well for all the Jacobs and Chrissies and Chris's in the world in your respective offices. Some of the people in this room have been working with John on our communication strategy, and now some of our marketing and rebranding efforts. We have an important meeting this Thursday I'm looking forward to bringing the group together for that. I would remind everybody that, in September, we kind of embarked on this celebrating our 50th year. And on our website, I did encourage council to talk with constituents about come to the website, share a picture, share a story, share a video about your experience with JAUNT over these last 50 years. And so we'll continue to be talking about that with some emphasis in September to celebrate the close of that time. Last item on that board meeting agenda in December is to honor Ray Herron, who served the city of Charlottesville on the JAUNT board for 24 years prior to ending his service maybe two months ago. Other than that, we have the Virginia Transit Leadership Institute in town tomorrow all day. They were here in April at Garland Shop, and we're hosting them at JAUNT this time. This is 15 transit professionals from around the state who are emerging leaders and trying to grow in the profession. And so we have a number of sessions planned throughout the day, and the highlight of that, of course, is that the three of us will be on a panel at the end answering questions about what it means to be in leadership.
Yeah, that would be a fun panel to monitor.
I don't think so.
Anyway, did have the pleasure of presenting to council last night about where we're headed with JAUNT, all of our priorities, and I am happy to say, as I've told the group before, that wasn't even to say because we haven't signed the contract, but we do have a signed contract for our demonstration project where we will be using the VIA software to schedule ADA clients and to provide service in Green County.
You.
That's good, that's great.
And you guys are really nice.
Okay. Any questions from Mike on that? Okay. All right, Katie from DRPT.
All right, a reminder that the 45-day public comment period for the proposed merit, capital, and operating changes is still open, and it closes on Friday, November 21st. Any comments you have on those proposed changes should be sent to, it's drptpr@drpt.virginia.gov. TISDEC will be meeting on Monday, the 24th at 9:30 to review the public comments and potentially vote on the endorsement of the proposed changes. You want to tune into that. If these ultimately do get passed by the CTB, they won't be implemented until FY28 will be the impact.
Do both of the beloved providers in this area lose money in that scenario? Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes, as you talk to elected officials about their comments.
She's been warning us about that.
Your public comment is the best recommendation I have. The Virginia Breeze Intercity Bus, we now have a contractor for the new service, the Tidewater Current. That's the east-west going through Charlottesville and Crozet. So we're negotiating launch date, but looking at spring, and so we're very excited for a 2026 launch. And hopefully we'll continue to have more info to share on that. The Chisholm plan, the Coordinated Human Service Mobility Plan update is ongoing. The new plan should be available at the end of December. There's a survey coming out soon. I think some of you may already have it, to get input on the prioritization of strategies for funding human service transportation projects across the state. Also, the grant program season is kind of kicking off for us. Grants will open December 1st. They're due February 1st. Tomorrow is the transit program grant workshop. Thursday is your assistance program workshop, and then today was the 5310 human service grant workshop. We'll be working very closely with Kat and John and TJPC over the next couple months, getting your applications ready. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Katie? Nope. All right, the next item on the agenda is Keith Smith. How did you appear on that?
I don't know. Something about a sledgehammer or something. Up at the podium, Madam Chair? Can I go to the podium or can I do from here? Oh, don't say that. So I had prepared remarks, but listening to everybody, this is an awesome group of people and I've learned something. transit people are fun.
We try.
Who knew? So I've changed it. I've got all kinds of notes, so watch out. I got a podium and I like to talk. And it's got this whole New Yorker accent thing going on. But, so I'm here as the chair of the PMOC, opportunity, almost did it again. The reason I do it is we've spent so much time together, Diane, in all these different groups. But I'm the chair of the Planning District Commission, and I'm here to present this wonderful resolution. I'm gonna let Taylor read it because you're not gonna have too much of this New York accent doing that. But in looking around in this room and watching this communication between the two organizations, you know, it demonstrated that collaboration matters. And it's a really awesome thing to see. So I'm gonna go off script a little bit. Thank you for taking care of the rural jurisdictions. I live in a rural jurisdiction. What you guys do, Mike, is awesome. I'm praying you get the midday thing. My 85-year-old parents would appreciate it. Otherwise, I gotta drive from my office all the way home to pick them up to take them to the doctor. So keep up the good work. It's awesome stuff. You know, the RTV has built this foundation that Carter is gonna grow off of. And it's a really awesome thing to watch. But I'm gonna speak a little bit from the heart to a person I think a lot of, and it's Diantha.
I want to crawl under the table.
No, don't do that, because I'm gonna cry with you. I may be a Marine, but I'm a big softie on it. I've been on the commission for 15 years. And, you know, sat across and next to Diantha in regional housing partnership meetings, land trust meetings, commission meetings. And your leadership and compassion, and I watched it here today, is unbelievable. I personally learned a lot from you on how to manage a meeting. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. You show up, you listen, you keep us grounded. You keep us grounded. And you guide the difficult conversations, which is a skill set to do. And I'm just honored to be in the same room that you are to have that conversation. On top of that, you had to deal with me, which is never a good thing. My big ideas, my big questions, and my crazy housing map that I like to throw around to everybody on it. You're just awesome. You're going to be greatly missed. I am personally going to miss you. And I can't see how these organizations will be the same without you at the helm. And this is off chart, this is from my heart. Love you dearly. You're gonna do great. And don't let me know where you live, because I might come find you. So I'm officially supposed to give this presentation, but I'm going to let Taylor do this. Definitely none of this was on my script. So thanks. Oh, a couple of quick things. I also co-chair the Regional Housing Partnership. Why the hell isn't UVA here? It took us years to get Colette Sheehy at the table for the Regional Housing Partnership. Regional Housing Partnership and your organization are at the hip. Diantha reminded me of this regularly at that. We currently, since Colette has retired, Alice Rocher, Alice part of it. I have an executive committee meeting next week with that, and if she doesn't, she needs to be at this table. It's important to have her there. All right, I'll let this fine young person be. Thank you very much. You are awesome. From the heart, you're awesome.
Alice Rocher was at ribbon cutting for the pedestrian.
It's okay.
That's right.
So she's from Jersey, I'm from Brooklyn. We'll get it worked out. Thank you, Diantha. You're awesome.
I'm going to read our resolution commending the Jefferson Area Regional Transit Partnership. Whereas the Jefferson Area Regional Transit Partnership was established following a recommendation of the Regional Transit Coordination Study in 2017 to serve as an interim body and precursor for establishing a regional transit authority. And whereas the mission of the RTP was to provide recommendations to decision makers on transit related matters with goals that included communication, coordination, regional goals, vision, and shared opportunities. And whereas since its inception, the RTP has been instrumental in laying the foundation for a stronger, more coordinated regional transit system. And whereas the RTP has successfully provided a strong forum for communication and coordination between transit providers and filled a critical role in building consensus around regional transit priorities. And whereas the work of the RTP included completion of a strategic plan, the Albemarle County Transit Expansion Study, a regional transit vision plan, and a transit governance study. And whereas the transit governance study provided the foundation for formation and activation of the Charlottesville Albemarle Regional Transit Authority to serve as a primary forum for regional transit discussion and decision making. And whereas the first chair of the RTP was Albemarle Supervisor Diantha McKeel, who was elected to the position in October 2017. And whereas Ms. McKeel, who's completing her third and final term on the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors this year, has continued to chair the RTP since its formation. And whereas Ms. McKeel brought a strong desire and keen perspective to discussions about improving transit service in the region. And whereas Ms. McKeel's passion and servanthood also led to her serving on the board of directors for the Virginia Transit Association, including as its president. And whereas the pending dissolution of the RTP and transfer of its duties to CARTA is a milestone in discussion of transit service in the region. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission does hereby commend the Jefferson Area Regional Transit Partnership for the exemplary work to provide a forum for discussion and foundation for action to expand transit options in the region. And be it resolved further that the TJPDC commends Diantha McKeel of the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors for her diligence, vision, and steadfast leadership while serving as the first and only chair of the Regional Transit Partnership. Adopted this 6th day of November 2025 by the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission.
Everybody else, we have to prove we can play in the same sandbox together. And we've done that. So thank you all very much, and I thank staff and all of you all here for this kind of resolution and for this really important work for us. Really critical. I'm trusting you to keep it going without a fault. Thank you, and now I have to move on quickly, because we're running out.
Cupcakes.
I need to adjourn the CARTA board and the RTP meeting. And hearing no objections, going to adjourn us, and the next CARTA board meeting will be January the 22nd of 2020. And I think we have some refreshments. I see something over there. Thank you very much.
Diantha, thank you.
Connie Chip, I don't know if he's still there, but.
Chip said, congratulations to everyone, a positive turning point for the TJPDC region with much more work and success to come. Diantha, it wouldn't have happened without you. Good night to all, and until the next celebration.
Right. Thanks, Chris.
See, Kelly, if you would have let me read that, I would have never got to it because it would have got all ADD would have kicked in. Phew, there we go. And nobody would get cupcakes. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you for coming.